I love the live thing. Click to go live. It's so cool. Hey, everybody. We're live here with the Lights Camera Pro podcast. I'm your host, Sean Ventura, and we are here today with the two podcasters and creators of Bubble Bath Stories, Nicky and Manny. They record their podcast in the bathroom. They're going to tell us about it. This is so cool. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Yeah, so I'm going to shut up now for a second and just let you talk about Bubble Bath Stories. How did you come up with the idea? How did you create it? And how did you decide you wanted to record it in the bathroom? And are you still doing that?
Yes, obviously right now we're not in the bathroom. We came up with it. I am by trade a production coordinator, so I'm definitely in the TV business. And Manny here has had experience in radio down in Tampa. And we just needed a creative outlet for us. And anyone who lives in New York knows that you live in a very tiny apartment and every room is a common room. And we found that we were having a lot of discussions in the bathroom, or one person be in the living room, another person be in the bathroom. Either way, these conversations were happening in the bathroom. And so we just thought this would be some of the things we were talking about we felt needed to be shared amongst our friends. And I remember one of those stories was we were trying to figure out if superheroes pay taxes. And if they do, how do they write off, like, how does Superman write off his outfits, right? Because he's supposed to keep a secret identity. How's he supposed to do that? And so we're bouncing this around, and I remember the next night Manny came in and actually found a H&R Block spreadsheet that showed how Spider-Man and Batman's
taxes
would differ and where they would fall. And so sharing that conversation with some coworkers, and
we started getting into how Homer Simpson seems to have an exponential amount of money, and it became an episode.
Homer.
And so the whole basis of it is we are part of the cannabis community. And so one of the places that we would do it was in the bathroom. And so it's became like a very relaxing kind of zen place for us as well. And what's more,
our code word.
Yeah. And what's more exciting than and relaxing than a bubble bath.
Yeah.
And so that's where it kind of all tied in. And so we just felt, one, the bathroom has great echo. I'm an amazing singer in the bathroom. I give live concerts and everything. And we just felt what room in the house would even be the best one to do it. It's called Bubble Bath Stories. You can't do it in the living room. Nobody's going to get it.
Right. And from my perspective, the bathroom is where you shed off your layers and tell your true feelings.
And so we just felt like this is it. This is our thing. And so we sit in our very tiny bathroom, just he and I and our cell phones, and we just kind of go at it depending on what it is that we want to talk about that week, what's going on that week.
Or sometimes it could be something that's been boiling in us.
Yeah, and we just have to get it all out there.
Right. I do remember, and I have to ask you this, I was going to wait, but you watched a Bob's Burgers and you had like a drinking contest or something? Was that one of your episodes?
Yeah, so when the quarantine started out here, we noticed everybody started downloading Zoom or any of these FaceTiming apps. And that's when Facebook even came out with their rooms, their chat rooms.
Right.
And so we saw everybody was doing these live sharings on Instagram. So we just figured, hey, why not just do a live hangout as well? And we started making it an actual contest.
So, when we first did it, it was, we would set up a different show and just kind of drink and watch it. And so we created drinking rules. So every time a character did this, you had to take a drink. Right. And so we really wanted to bring it up a notch. So we added trivia to it. And so with the trivia, we came giving out, stuff that we have, our merch and things like that. We kept it really simple. But then we started to notice there was a bit of a decline. I think now that things are starting to open up, we realized we had to let go of it. And so the very last one, what we did was we invited all the previous winners and allowed them to only participate for a cash prize. Yeah. And so we got them trash talking each other. It was actually a lot of fun, and we found that people enjoyed. I mean, what else are you doing on a Friday night during quarantine?
Right.
Yeah.
Drinking and watching TV. You might as well win something for it.
Right. So that's very cool. But I'm interested in the contest. Like, what do you say on your website or do you say on your podcast site on Anchor, like, hey, we're having a contest and whoever guesses the trivia wins $20 or wins a...
So we actually, we have taken a hiatus from doing audio because we just needed a break to kind of figure out how we're going to make the next season better, what works for us, what didn't. And so it just so happened that quarantine happened at the right time. And we figured we need to, one, still stay relevant because that's really what it's all about. It doesn't matter what it is that you're doing for your followers to continue to engage. You have to always have something going on. And so that was one of the things. So every week, most like every other day, every day we would post like, this is the show that we're doing. This is the title. And every day would be a different, like a GIF or something like that. And then like the day before we put all the rules. And so it just became, you know, people were becoming excited about it. They were giving us shows that they wanted to do. And the people who were telling, I remember we did Park and Recs. Everybody wanted to do Park and Recs. We said, fine, we're going to do Park and Recs. We do Park and Recs. We probably had like 5 people that were watching us. And it was none of the people who were like, please play Park and Rec.
We had like 20 people online watching, and we thought, okay, Parks and Rec, everybody wants to watch it, and we had like 5 people on the very next week.
And nobody got any of the answers right. Because the other thing is that we wanted to give everyone a chance. And so if we're asking the same people, it's just not fun and it's not entertaining.
Right.
So, and we also found that people were drinking a lot more, so they weren't really paying attention to the episodes. So we had to figure a way around that. But I don't think we even had winners for that. So we didn't even give anything away that day.
Yeah, we didn't want the same people to keep winning.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm curious, like, are the people, it's just you two and people are watching you? Or do people come up in the Zoom windows with you?
No, that would be great, but Instagram hasn't added that yet. So it was just on Instagram Live. Okay. And it would basically be if you tuned in, you were watching this TV show on your phone or device. But you're listening for the rules to drink at.
Right. And you're listening to a commentate. And if we were watching on Hulu and there's commercials, we're like, oh, I can't even believe that we're having a conversation not just with ourselves, but with our viewers, because they would answer within the comments.
And I got to tell you, I'm as surprised as you are right now. People were watching on their phones for like 30 minutes. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, that person must have had like a shift where no customers were coming in.
Yes, it was a lot of trial and tribulation with that.
But it worked because people liked it, and we had those 5 people at the end that were still there. They were there every single week.
Right.
So it was a good time. It was a great way to pass quarantine.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. So I know you went over it a little bit, but can we just go back and just talk about, because a big thing for podcasters on all the Facebook groups is like, I want to do it, but I just can't, and I've been trying to do it for months, and I can't launch, and what should I do, and what should I name it, and whatever. Like, what was your process from, like, okay, we're going to do this, to actually doing it, coming up with a name, and then launching?
I would think the worst thing you can do is keep making yourself ready for it. You kind of just got to press record and do it.
Yeah.
Even if the first episode is the worst one. Yeah. I mean, I do know that for like a year, we probably talked about it. And we could have talked about it for another year, hadn't we just hit record.
I mean, Manny had told so many people about it already, so we kind of had no choice.
Yeah, and I really think that's what helped out. You know, you have to take ownership of things you tell people you're going to do. If you say, hey, I'm going to do it, everyone's going to think you're a liar until you hit record.
And before this podcast, I was a part of another podcast called Venting and Vino. And so Manny really wanted to start one. He didn't know how to do it. The setup for Venting and Vino had a board, and it was a little more complicated. And so we first came up with the name just jokingly. And then I was out of work. I'm a freelancer. So I was in between jobs. And I just remember being up to it must have been 2:00 in the morning on Reddit, looking at the podcast community, and I found someone put a post about Anchor. Because the other thing that people worry about is money.
Right.
Worry about the kind of money you have to put in, time, all of that. And so when I found Anchor, I did some more research on it. I busted into the room. I was like, we're doing it. We're doing it. I found how we're going to do it, and it's going to be easy, and we're going to do it. And so that's really what helped us a lot. We dedicated 15 minutes because we felt all people are going to listen to your 15 minutes of us going back and forth about BS. And, you know, I had experience doing a podcast that would be an hour long and it'd be so draining. And you just like, you walk away just feeling drained. You don't even remember what it is that you talked about.
Yep.
And so we decided 15 minutes, bubble bath stories in the bathroom. And our mascot's going to be a duck because, you know, Ernie said it best. Yeah. Rubber ducky, you're the one.
I love the rubber ducky. The rubber ducky is very cool. I love it.
Shout out to Danielle Torres, our really talented friend who does graphic design. She like gave us the gift of our super cool duck that everybody sees now. So she's great. But yeah, so we kind of we already had a name. We knew it was going to be 15 minutes. Now we finally found this hosting website, which is totally free. You can do it as, you know, long as you want. It connects you to,
it does everything for you, basically.
Right. Apple, all these distributors. And that's it. We did it and we put it on our Instagrams and
I think a lot of people get into the whole, is it going to be a moneymaker thing for me? A lot of people, when I hear them say they want to do a podcast, they talk about getting paid for it. Now, obviously, nobody when they start out gets paid for it. But the cool thing that made me actually want to hit record was the fact that that app finds advertisers for you.
Yeah.
It's nothing like, it's like 10 cents every 1,000 plays. But hey, it's still something in your head as a reward, you know? And as long as you make it something that interests you, I think that's the main thing. Like, don't talk on a sports podcast if you're not into talking about sports for 20 minutes.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
And we have a super simple setup. It's just our cell phones.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I love that. I love that information for a lot of people because a lot of people are asking about Anchor and a lot of people are texting me and asking me, should I do Anchor? And you guys are saying it's great. I do Libsyn and I like it. As far as like downloads, I think I've been doing this 2 months and I have like 700 downloads.
Wow.
And as far as like YouTube, and that's what I wanted to ask you, is that on YouTube, and we're going to find out tonight about Facebook Live, on YouTube, the engagement is much higher. So, like a lot more people see it, especially when you do live. And do you have that experience? Just to give you an idea, I have audio podcasts on YouTube that I have up for a month with 5 views, and the last couple of video podcasts that were live were like 25 a day. So, so I mean, we're not talking Joe Rogan numbers, but it's just a much higher engagement, and everybody's crazy about numbers, and everybody's crazy, like you said, about money. I'm just doing this to have fun, but it's also, for me, it's a big networking thing because I interview podcasters, which is a community that I'm in, but also I interview people in the film and television industry, directors, writers, actors, and I love hearing their stories. And who knows? I've worked with some of them, and I may work with some of them someday. So it's like a double thing for me. But
I don't think when you're starting out, you should really even think about the numbers and the money because, I mean, even us, we didn't start thinking about merchandise until a year afterwards. We were just more into making sure we did something that at least our parents were going to hit play for.
Right.
Like, we were thinking personal goals like, oh, I want to make sure that enough people hear my opinion on this subject, so I'm going to promote this episode a lot. More than just like, I want to make sure a lot of people hear it.
Right.
We had certain people that already were listening that we were happy when they would comment, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel the same way, but like you said, there's a lot of this, like, is it worth it for me to do this? Because I'm a freelancer too, Nicky, and right now I stopped working for a few months. I was working at USA Today because basically they're furloughing people and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, so they're not going to use freelancers, of course. But as far as the merchandise thing, do you know Chance the Rapper?
Yes.
Yeah, so Chance the Rapper is a really cool, and I got to him by way of Hebrew Brantley, this artist that I'll tell you about in a second, who does the same thing. So Chance the Rapper actually controls his records because he has merchandise, and he makes enough money from his merchandise that he doesn't even have to deal with record companies. So he launched his album coloring book not on Apple and not having to, because Apple pays you something like 9 cents a song out of the whatever $2 they get or whatever subscription fees or whatever. So he just released it on his website, had his merchandise, and the same thing. If you look up this really cool artist, his name's Hebrew Brantley, and he's a friend of my. I was really into Warhol and Basquiat, and Hebrew Brantley does some new drawings with Warhol and Basquiat, and he does a lot of spray painting in Chicago, and he has these figures. But it's amazing stuff, and he does the same thing. He's able to go to the galleries he wants to go to because of his merchandise. He has all this merchandise, sweatshirts, hoodies, and he doesn't care about money, and he doesn't care about dealing with museums or art galleries because he's making money from his merchandise, which is very cool.
Very
so
yeah.
that's something down the line. But as far as your show, how do you find guests, Nicky? I know that I've seen both of you on the video podcast, but even the audio podcast, are they all just friends, or are you finding people through social media or through stuff like this? How do you find guests?
It's a little bit of everything. We like to have our friends on because it's just a really good time and the flow is really great. But we also like to get a conversation started. And so I remember we had a professional eater on our show, and his people reached out to us. I don't know how they found us.
Yeah.
I think it might have been on one of the many Facebook forums, which is a really great thing, by the way. If you are looking to start a podcast, definitely look to join these forums on podcasts. I mean, I saw your post and I was like, yeah, I'm totally interested. Mm-hmm. On Reddit, there's just so many ways to get into a podcasting community where people don't feel threatened. It's just like an open, safe space, and there's room for everybody. And so, we had that. We've had people that we've just kind of gotten up to that are doing really cool things. Like there's this artist in our neighborhood who had just a poster that said, "Follow me here. If you tag your friends, I'll frame your picture for free." And I thought that was really cool. You don't see that a lot. Everybody's just always on social. You don't see any kind of promotion like that. And so we posted it. He thanked us. It was great. I went for a run and I actually saw the artist there. And we are going to set up to have him interviewed because he does really great stuff. He does custom sneakers and jackets and all that. So it's really just seeing a person, getting a vibe for them, and really deciding if their story is going to work for your brand and if your audience is going to be interested in it. And I think that's what's really important. You have to know your audience.
Right.
And really what works for them.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely. A lot of it is just walking up to people and asking them. You really don't know who has an interesting story. I used to work in sales, door-to-door sales out in Long Island. And through somebody that I worked in at that same job, I actually was able to find a physics scientist who works with uranium out in Long Island.
Cool.
And the whole subject was we were having them talk about Marvel movies.
Marvel movies, great.
Nerd stuff, it was for this other side project we were doing along with it when all the last Marvel movies were coming out. And so, like I said, it's just a lot of it's really just going up to random people and asking them what they do.
Right.
It's just supporting.
Yeah.
It's supporting people who have projects that you think are cool, even if they're not, not everybody has to be an A-list guest. One of the things we struggle with are celebrity podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's terrible every celebrity's doing a podcast.
We love it, but we hate it at the same time because, they're automatically going to get these audiences because they're friends with these A-list people.
Yeah.
And for us, it's just like, in our minds, we're really important people. And so when we go and have these conversations with people where we want them to be on the show, in our minds, they too are very important people. And whatever project that they're working on, we want to just like spread the love of it and just be like, hey, you guys should check this out as a new artist, or check out this guy's videos. He eats professionally, like things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't stand the celebrity not even just the larger podcasts, because they have about 5-10 minutes of commercials at the beginning. And you're trying to flick through it with a little 30-second thing. And you're like, God, man, I'm not even going to listen to this crap because it's just too many commercials.
Yeah, because they have like different advertisements they have to plug at the beginning, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're just making so much money already. Why don't you give it a rest and put the ads at the end or
Yeah.
something? But this is
They want
interesting. This is interesting for you guys. The woman I was talking to yesterday, Ashley from the UK, she said that the people in Europe do not like ads on their podcasts, and they will not listen to ads. So they're like, no ads. If they start to play a podcast and there's an ad, they turn it off. And that's just the European thing.
Really?
They do not like it. But where are you guys in New York? I lived in New York for 12 years. Where are you?
We live in Ridgewood, Queens. I like to call it the stepchild of Brooklyn and Middle Village.
Okay.
So if you walk 2 blocks are Bushwick, if you walk the 2 other blocks are Middle Village, Queens. So it's that nice little area in between there.
But I'm originally from Tampa, Florida.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I was at the Lower East Side for years, and then I moved to Fifth and DeGraw in Brooklyn, pretty close to Barclays wasn't even there yet. This is like 20 years ago. But I was in Brooklyn for a while, so I love New York. And my kids, I have 17-year-old twin girls and a 15-year-old son, and I've taken them to New York every year for the last 4 years because they were born in New York. We're in Atlanta now, but they're like born in New York, so they want to go to New York. But they love it, and they can't stop talking about it. They're like, Milton's so boring. We want to live in New York. And but yeah, I totally love New York. But tell me just a little bit, because people are so curious, and they ask this all the time. What do you guys do on social media? Nicky, I saw you doing some Instagram stuff when I was looking for your podcast. What do you do on social media to get people to come to your podcast and let them know about live videocasts? What do you do?
Oh, social media has really been the bane of our existence, and we grew up with it.
It's
so
tough.
It is
It's
tough. One thing that we have learned, but it's still really hard for us, is that Bubble Bastards is our brand. Although he and I both have separate social media accounts, we have to really pay attention to Bubble Bastards, and we have to make sure that the stuff that we're putting out is relevant to our content that we're putting out. And we're still learning that, because social media is difficult. If you are not a 17-year-old girl who has like TikTok and all of that, as 33-year-olds, we are like, I can't even begin to understand how people have 1 million followers and only post 1 picture a week. Like, it's things like that. It's just been, it's been hard for us. But a lot of things that we do is, and it's super common in the podcasting community, is like you have to make snippets of the show, like things that might have been quote worthy from your guest, putting out our logos to make sure that people know or see it, funny gifs or memes that we make that pertain to our show. When we're doing IG stories, we like to make it a little more home based, so you see more into our lives, and so that you see, we're not just talking to talk, we actually do these things, and these are our experiences. But
I think consistency is a big thing.
Yeah.
Too. If you're not, it's like a muscle. It's only hard when you haven't done it every day. And it sounds bad, but you do have to do it every day. You have to, if you're really trying to make it something. Joe Rogan's got his own people doing it for him. But every day there's something.
It's tough when you have a full-time job, man. I know, but I did see a really big, this is going to sound really silly, but I saw a big increase in downloads when I have a Lights Camera Pro podcast Facebook page, but when I shared my post about my audio podcast to my own personal timeline, because I have like 500 friends on there and I have 500 friends on Lights Camera Pro, I saw 10, 20 downloads a day jump. So just actually using your own social media to promote on top of that. And then also, I have this little video on YouTube that I do talking about social media secrets, because the tagging of the faces and the tagging of the names will also help you. But then the other thing that was absolutely huge is this one guy who's got 80 downloads in 3 or 4 days. It's because he shared the Facebook post to his timeline, and he has thousands of friends, 2,000 friends,
Oh.
and then people on his timeline shared it. So now you're reaching more and more and more people. So it's really a quirky thing, and I'm trying to figure it out myself, but I have seen those things happen for sure.
Well, you have your whole social media team. You got 17-year-old twins and a 15-year-old.
They should be posting.
They should be earning their keys.
They really should. I want to get them to edit the audio podcast. My son is day trading. He's 15. My daughters are in Florida right now, and they did do comments.
How old is your son?
My son's 15.
And he's day trading.
Yeah, he's really smart. Yeah, his name's Skylar. Natalie and Samantha are in Florida, and they did do some comments on the first post, but it was like, "Hey, Dad, what's up, Dad?"
It's funny because we had a conversation about how not enough kids get taught about financial independence. It's crazy that you're having them learn right now about day trading.
He should be doing his own podcast.
He really should.
He's always talk to me about day trading.
Yeah, he's always texting me. So I made $100 today. I made $70 today. But yeah, I have another friend in Israel that's really into it, and he says don't day trade. But my son took $500 and he wanted to try it. So that's up to him. But my friend in Israel does real stocks and options, and he makes a lot of money. And he's like, yeah, don't mess with day trading at all. But so
before it can hurt him, it's good that he at least knows what it is.
Right.
Right. And he's learning, so that's fine. I mean, it sounds dorky that he's learning with $500, but it was his birthday money or over years or whatever. So
as long as it's not your money.
No, it's not my money. No. I would not give him money. So you talked a little bit. We just have a couple more questions. You talked a little bit about how Anchor does the ads for you. Have you done any other sponsorships or any other agreements like swapping promos or any other way to promote your podcast?
We haven't. We've been a little lacking in that, and so that's why we take these breaks in between to learn more. Like, we never want one season to be like the last season before. We always want to elevate. And so now, with COVID happening, I'm, New York's closed and nobody's filming any TV shows. So I have a lot more time to do the research to see what works best. And now that I'm on a lot more forums on Facebook, I'm just like, if people are asking for swaps, let's swap.
Yeah.
We don't have anything in writing from it's not anything big. It's
little bit ago, we did an episode with this guy named Matt Sen, and he does Wrestle Life Radio.
Right.
Where they talk about what's current in WWE and all the wrestling events that occur. When we did that episode, and it took us a month to release it because we had this whole plan of what we were going to do to go to WrestleMania and everything. Then all those plans went to shit.
Yeah.
But when we actually released the episode, we had a lot of downloads, a lot of extra follows, a lot of people tagging and listening to that one just out of there because he, from his show, promoted it. So I really think going on people's podcasts and us all promoting each other.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us are going to be on one of these new celebrity podcasts. So let's just help each other out and promote each other.
Yeah.
So right now we're gonna tag you. So hopefully 2 of your friends start following us.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a great thing to do. And like I said, I interview directors and actors and writers of TV shows. But then I was like, you know what? I'm so interested in this podcast thing. I'm such a dork. I'm on these Facebook groups and people are like, so what should I do for like social media, or what should I do for video podcasts, and what camera should I buy? And so I'm like, I just want to ask people. I want to talk to podcasters and see what they're doing. And I think it would be helpful. And I think it's almost like there's a bigger audience to watch podcasters than our original podcasts. You know what I mean? Like because people are like, they really want to see how you make the podcast. There's hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people making podcasts, but maybe only 50,000 or 5,000 that want to hear about the film industry or whatever. So it's just kind of a different angle, but you guys are still in the entertainment. You're still entertaining people, and people are listening to your stuff and its content. So I think it falls under the same thing. But let's just wrap it up with the last question because I know you guys got stuff. What kind of advice, and Manny, you did a little bit of this already, what kind of advice would you give to a new podcaster or someone starting out? Like obviously you said earlier, just do it, but anything else you would say to someone who's new and needs to pull the trigger and what they should focus on?
I would say talk to everybody, because just like people are asking you what light should I get, what microphone, talk to everybody about it.
Ooh, I'm on the different end of that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you get caught up talking too much about it that you never wind up doing it. I think that the real advice here is don't be intimidated. Like you could talk. I've seen podcasts about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I've seen podcasts about, relationship. We knew somebody who did a podcast strictly on different whiskeys and bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
There is a podcast for everybody. Yeah. And you might run across like 40 other podcasts that are just like yours, but you yourself are going to bring something that your audience is going to like. And, maybe reach out to those 40 other podcasters who are just like you and be on their shows and do cross promotions like that. I think it's just, don't let a setup intimidate you. Don't let that you have to have this X amount of money and get the best camera. You got to do all that, because sometimes what happens is people do podcasts and it fizzles out in like a few months.
And you never know who's going to end up listening too, because we have a fan in South Africa. I don't know where that came from. Like listening to a couple 30-year-olds in Queens.
But we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying. You never know where it's going to land and how many people are going to end up listening.
So just have fun with it. Like, I know it's so easy to say that. And trust me, we get caught up in the numbers and the business aspect of it. But at the end of the day, we always ask ourselves, do we still love doing it? Do we still want to do it? Do we still have fun? And if the answer is yes to all of those questions, then the next step is, how do we make it better than the last time?
Because it takes a lot of hours. So if you're going to do it, you should have fun doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, guys. Thanks so much. And I have already tagged you and promoted this on Facebook. And this will go to YouTube also, and I'll tag you, and then I'm going to take this and turn it into an audio podcast later. So once you get your hands on it in whatever form, Facebook, YouTube, audio, share it, let people know, and we'll both share it and promote each other's stuff. And
sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. So thanks so much. This has been great. I'm sure people will love it. And I wish you guys luck. I hope that you get 1 million downloads in the next year. And I see you with your own TV show.
Thank you so much. And you guys can find us. You can find me at Nicky Trendz on IG.
You can get me at Got No Time for This. And our number 4.
And our page is at Bubble Bath Stories on IG and Facebook.
Awesome. Everybody check it out, and you guys have a great night. Thanks so much.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.